Today I have the Peren Nera Rogue Diver. But before we get to the review, there's a few things I got to get out of the way. Now, I didn't want the review to go like this, and I have been dealing with a few issues of review watches lately, and of course it makes it much harder to do my job. So, if you're not familiar, the original Peren Nera I reviewed just over 3 years ago, that was a pretty negative review for good reason. And that came down to a lot of lint and dirt on the dial, and more specifically, the brand's response to me about it. Now, flash forward 3 years, and I get an email asking me to review this latest Rogue version. Honestly, I think I must have blocked out all the stuff from dealing with this brand in the past, and I mean that from a review standpoint. Customer dealings could be very different. So I agreed to have them send one for review, and immediately I thought, hey, this is a good looking watch. There were already a few things I was questioning, and we'll get to that, but I thought this was a great looking piece. The initial pics I shared on social media, they've been well received. Watch enthusiasts are digging this clean look, and it's a watch that just doesn't look like every other watch out there, and I even find this to have some German dive watch vibes. So I took all the pics, I wore it for a few days, and I started this review video. I did the audio, and then I started doing all the video footage as I usually do, and that's when I noticed this. You see that mark right there at the 10 o'clock marker? Now, I'm not sure what that is. It looks gold or brass. It might be a piece of something that was dislodged from the chapter ring, or it was stuck to the back of the hand and came off onto the dial, even, just with a knock or setting it on the side, or it's a scratch in the dial, maybe caused by the hour hand would be my guess. Now, I don't know what it is. I do plan on sending it to my watch repair guy to check it out, but I made the decision to go ahead and get this review done, as it needs to go up at this point, as other things have delayed it. So I decided to get it out there as is. I felt, considering the past I had with this brand, and now this popping up right as I'm trying to complete the review, it needed to be mentioned. Because I do not want to make this an incredibly long video, I'm going to now do an overview of sorts and hit the high points or the low points. And if you want to see it more in depth, go to the description for the link, or just head over to watchreport.com for the full written article. So let's go ahead and get into it. The Peren Nera Rogue is evolved from the original Nera, and when looking back at that watch, these new ones are very similar, but now it has a different bezel, a diver's bezel insert. The last bezel insert was just a plain steel insert, no markings or anything. Or if you opt for the Rogue X model, a 12-hour insert. The rest of the watch, besides now offering a bracelet, is pretty much the same, though there are a few differences, such as Transylvania being removed from the logo on the dial. That very cool bluish green color for the dial, dubbed Nera Blue, is still here, but now it has a color-matched date wheel. So let's get on to all the specs. On screen, I will display them all, but this is an all bead blasted case, and it comes with 3 strap options: the bracelet, a vintage style leather, and a native strap. Pricing starts at just about $630 USD. Now, one of the issues is the case is blasted and the bracelet isn't. And that's one of the things right from the beginning I noticed when it arrived. The bracelet itself is fine. It is nothing special. It's your 3-link oyster style bracelet. We've seen this bracelet on many watches. It's your very standard generic dive watch bracelet. But that's fine. It does function well. The problem here is not really the bracelet itself. It's that the case is all blasted and the bracelet is not. Now, I looked into this further, and I believe by reading some of the copy on the website that the original case was to be blasted on the sides and the back, but the top of the case was to have like a matte brushed finish. Now that finish would have matched this bracelet and case a little bit better. So I'm not sure what happened and why that case finishing didn't happen, and why these bracelets didn't get blasted to match this current case. Only Peren can answer that. So moving on, 39 millimeters is a popular size these days, and though I still prefer a larger watch, such as around 41, 42 millimeters for me personally, I think the balance between the case and the dial size here works. The lugs do look long, but fret not. They are only 48 millimeter lug to lug, which is a pretty short lug to lug length, and though I usually find dials like this really small, especially on dive watches of 38 or 39 millimeters. Everything here seems proportioned. Both the screw down crown and the bezel action are good and solid, though I have to give major props to this bezel specifically. It is an easy to grip bezel, especially no matter what position your hand is in or what position you're grabbing it from, and it has zero play. Yet it's still easy to move and rotate and has a very good ratcheting feel. The dial color, as I said, is unique. It's dubbed Peren Blue, and I love that they match this color to the date wheel. It's just a nice touch. The dial is just not cluttered as well. It's just not overrun with text or very large text, and that may be why the dial feels larger than it is, even with the prominent cutout style chapter ring. Now, one neat feature about the case back, and when you look at the case back from a distance, it kind of looks just like a pretty ordinary case back with a bunch of text, but it's the way they display the information around the back. If you take a look and you look, it goes in kind of a, I guess, a clockwise direction, and the specs of the watch, like Lume, Super Luminova BGW9 is written below that, and then production above, and then Swiss made below it. So it's kind of neat the way that they did that. But even more interesting is the serial number, and above it, if found, contact perenwatches.com. I've just never seen a case back info displayed like this, nor a lost and found type thing, and I just like how it's done. The lume is pretty good here. It's no flashlight, but the lume seems to be evenly applied. And even though the indices are on the smaller side, it does last a few good hours, and it looks really good in the dark. On the wrist, as I said, this bracelet is pretty standard, so no surprises here, but it feels pretty good on my 7.5-inch wrist. I feel that the K shape and the lugs seem to hug my wrist well. The leather strap looks good. It's on the short side though, about 115 by 75 millimeters. And I find this to be the case with a lot of watches these days, especially the smaller watches. If you go up in size, and specifically if you're gonna get a watch that's usually like 44, 45 millimeters, you'll usually find longer straps. But these days, I feel these straps are a little on the short side. I get it that you are thinking that, if somebody buys a 39 millimeter watch, that they may have a small wrist. And maybe that's the case. Maybe I just don't know. But I have seen a lot of guys that have 7.5 and 8-inch wrists that are looking for 39 and 40 millimeter cases these days. So maybe companies need to look into strap sizing just a little bit more. I do find this one to be on the short side. So whatever is on the dial here is unfortunate, and at this point, I think it's almost comical that it happened on this watch from this brand. Hopefully, it can be easily rectified, and hopefully, if you decide to purchase one, it will have no issues. The watch does look great and has a good movement with the SW200-1, and all things considered, pricing is pretty fair. But if you can't stand the bracelet and case not matching, you should probably opt for a strap. But if you're a bracelet only guy, you may want to look into getting it blasted yourself, which won't exactly be cheap. Again, head over to watchreport.com where I can get a little more in depth. And if you have any questions here, something I didn't cover or I missed, let me know down in the comment section here below. This is Don Evans from Watch Report. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.